So I think that we're all here to celebrate the advancements of the arts. It's a new millennium, it's a new century, and we want to look at the past 50 years and the role that art has played. And we want to be here today to advance the role of art in society, and particularly to tell the story about its worth. And part of that is going to be to dispel some of the myths that have been sitting here for years and years and years, that it's time to get rid of them because they're simply not true. And there's a lot of evidence to support why they're not true. So that's the other reason I think we're here. And I think that the value of art in society, the true story about its value has been held back by some of these myths. One, it's not an economic driver. Two, it's a trivial pursuit. Now, those myths, unfortunately, come from minds, very, very narrow, very small minds, but unfortunately, they held congressional seats. And some are still there. But I think it's time to get rid of that myth, and probably the people who orchestrate those myths. So like anything, I think like anything else, any of us who are here today, our passion and our drive for the support of this begins with something personal. So I think Bob Lynch, our illustrious head of this organization, is going to explain to you some of the details. But I can only offer what my personal experience has been, because I think it all begins with something personal. In my case, I think something that would relate to the role of art in education. When I was a kid, I grew up in a very lower working class neighborhood in southeastern Los Angeles. And there weren't many opportunities. I was not a good student. I was bored in class. And a third grade teacher, but I drew. I constantly drew. That was for my amusement and my own pleasure, and also to relieve boredom and the lack of opportunity that was out there. So I was drawing in class one day, doodling. Teacher called me up in front of the class to punish me for being caught doodling when I should have been listening to what she was talking about. And I was completely humiliated, and I thought, I'm done for, because I was already considered a bad kid. I was already considered a bad student, which I was. So there was very little left for me to have any hope for. So I thought I was done for. And she said, why don't you show what it is that's so important to you, that's more important than what this class is about? So I held up my drawing, and the class responded. They kind of liked it. Now, mind you, the drawing was a bunch of cowboys chasing some Indians over a cliff and shooting at them, and B-52 bombers bombing the cowboys. But at any rate, the class liked it, and the teacher had a decision to make right there, and the decision she made, I think, kind of saved my life. She saw that was my way of expression. She said, tell you what, we'll put an easel here. Every Wednesday, give you 15 minutes, and you come up and draw a story for the class, if you'll promise to pay attention to what we're doing here. And so I didn't think about that at that time. I thought about it years later. At that time, it was just something that I thought I escaped something awful. But years later, actually just a few years ago, when I was reflecting on my life, I thought, that was a real turning point. And that's something that can be brought into this discussion about the role of art in society, particularly art in education, which I think needs a far more substantive role than it's got. Thank you.